Not too long ago, I was just another person with zero direction, scrolling through social media, watching other people build things online and wondering why I couldn't seem to do the same. I had a little bit of money saved up, a lot of free time, and honestly no real plan for where my life was heading. I knew the traditional path wasn't something I was excited about, but I also didn't know what the alternative looked like yet. Now fast forward to today, and everything has completely changed. I built my own presence online, I started generating real income from videos, and I did it without any special connections, without a fancy camera setup, and without having some kind of massive head start over anyone else. I just figured it out as I went, and that made all the difference. Now, if you clicked on this video, there's a pretty good chance you've been thinking about starting a YouTube channel for a while now. Maybe you've been telling yourself you'll start soon. Maybe you've already picked out a niche in your head, thought about what your channel name could be, imagined what it would feel like to actually post something and have people watch it. And if I had to guess, the reason you still haven't actually done it yet has nothing to do with laziness. It has nothing to do with not being smart enough or talented enough or ready enough. The real reason is that you've been stuck inside your own head, going back and forth on every little detail and convincing yourself that more thinking is the same thing as making progress. It isn't. Here's the truth that nobody really wants to say out loud. Most people who want to start a YouTube channel don't have an idea problem. They have an action problem. The ideas are there. The motivation shows up every now and then, but the actual follow-through, the sitting down, hitting record, editing something together and putting it out into the world, that part never seems to happen. And so they stay in this loop where they research, they plan, they watch videos like this one, and then they go to bed feeling like they did something productive when really they just consumed more content about creating without actually creating anything themselves. And I'm not saying that to be harsh. I'm saying it because I lived that exact cycle for longer than I'd like to admit. When I first decided I was going to take YouTube seriously, I spent weeks thinking about it before I ever made a single video. I had notes on niches, I had lists of video ideas. I had watched probably hundreds of videos on how the algorithm works, how to grow fast, what kinds of thumbnails perform better, all of it. And when I finally sat down and actually made my first video, I realized very quickly that almost none of what I had planned in my head translated the way I expected. Some things that I thought were going to work completely flopped, and some of the videos I almost didn't post ended up being the ones that actually got traction. You cannot think your way into understanding how this works. You have to be in it, and that's the part that people really struggle to accept because we're wired to want to feel ready before we begin. We want some kind of guarantee that if we put the time and energy into building a channel, it's actually going to go somewhere. We want to know that it won't be embarrassing, that the videos will be good, that people will actually watch. But that guarantee does not exist, and waiting around for it to show up before you start is exactly how months and years go by without you ever posting a single thing. Here's what actually happens when you start before you feel ready. You post something, it's probably not that great. Maybe it gets a handful of views and that's it, and then you learn from it. You see what fell off, you figure out what you do differently, and you make the next one a little better, and then you do it again and again, and somewhere in that process something shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to make videos, and you start seeing yourself as someone who actually makes videos. That identity shift is everything. Because once you have that, your whole approach changes. You start watching other creators differently. You start paying attention to why certain videos work. You start developing instincts that you genuinely cannot get from sitting on the sidelines no matter how much you study. Now, I specifically want to talk about why 2026 is actually one of the best times you could possibly start a YouTube channel, because I think a lot of people have it backwards. A lot of people look at YouTube right now and think it's too late. They think the platform is oversaturated, that all the good niches are taken, that the big creators already have too much of a head start to ever catch up to. And I understand why it looks that way from the outside, but that thinking is completely wrong, and here's why. YouTube right now is the largest it has ever been. There are more people watching videos on this platform today than at any point in its entire history. Advertisers are spending more money than ever on YouTube content. The monetization opportunities that exist right now, whether that's AdSense, brand deals, digital products, memberships, or affiliate income, are more accessible to smaller creators than they've ever been before. YouTube has actively been pushing to surface new and growing channels because they need fresh content to keep their audience engaged. The algorithm is not working against you, it's actually looking for new voices to push. And on top of all of that, the tools available to creators right now are incredible. You do not need a professional studio, you do not need an expensive camera, you do not need a film degree or years of editing experience. The barrier to entry has never been lower and the potential ceiling has never been higher. So when someone tells you it's too late to start on YouTube, what they're really telling you is that they're too scared to start themselves. The real competition on YouTube is not between you and some massive creator with millions of subscribers. The real competition is between you and the version of yourself that keeps putting this off. That's the only thing standing between where you are right now and actually building something real. Now let's talk about the money side of this, because I know that's part of why you're here, and there's nothing wrong with that. Building a YouTube channel in 2026 with the intention of making real income from it is a completely legitimate goal. It's not some pipe dream. It's not something that only works for a lucky few. It's a real business model that thousands of people are executing right now at every level. from channels with 10,000 subscribers making a few $100s a month all the way up to creators generating life-changing income from the same platform. But here's what I want you to understand about the money. It is a result, not a starting point. The income comes after you put in the reps. It comes after you've figured out what your audience actually responds to, after you've developed your own style, after you've built up enough of a library that people can find your content and decide to stick around. Nobody starts a channel on Monday and gets a check on Friday, but people who start a channel and stay consistent for 6 months to a year, they almost always look back and say it was one of the best decisions they ever made. And here's something else that I think is really important to understand. You don't need to have everything figured out before you pick your direction. A lot of people get paralyzed trying to choose the perfect niche, the one that's going to grow the fastest or make the most money. And while strategy does matter, picking something and committing to it is always going to beat endlessly analyzing your options. You learn more from making 10 videos in a niche you're uncertain about than from spending 3 months trying to optimize your choice before you ever film anything. The creators who are winning on YouTube right now are not necessarily the most talented people. They're not the ones with the best equipment or the most polished production. They're the ones who showed up consistently, paid attention to what worked, and kept improving over time. That is a completely repeatable process. There is nothing about that formula that is out of reach for you. I want you to think about where you could realistically be 6 months from now if you actually started today, not if you start when you feel ready, not if you start once you figure out the perfect setup. If you start today, in 6 months, you could have dozens of videos published, you could have a real sense of what your audience wants, you could have crossed the monetization threshold and started earning your first dollars directly from YouTube, you could have brand deals reaching out because companies found your content, you could have built something that pays you while you sleep, while you eat, while you go about your normal day. That version of your life is available, but it only exists on the other side of actually starting. The biggest thing I want you to take away from this video is simple. Overthinking is not preparation. Watching more videos about starting is not the same as starting. The only move that actually counts is the one where you open your camera, hit record, and make something real. It doesn't have to be good, it just has to exist. Because one real video that's out in the world is worth more than 1,000 perfect ideas that never leave your head. You already have enough to begin. You just have to decide that you're done waiting. That's everything for today. If this hit home for you at all, make sure you subscribe because there's a lot more coming.